The most important mindset shift that I teach entrepreneurs that have the greatest impact on decreasing overall stress to the system is making sure that they're predominantly focusing on what they want. It is absolutely critical that there is a North Star guiding you that is a destination that you have determined is important for you to get to as an entrepreneur. Now, here's what I find is more commonly the case with individuals, the entrepreneurs that I work with, and even business execs, etc., that their mind is more focused on things they want to avoid, or what I think of as obstacles. The obstacles in the way, the things they want to make sure don't happen. So what are some of these things? A lot of them will come to me and say, I just want to make sure I don't burn out. I want to make sure I don't end up sick with disease. I want to make sure I'm not neglecting my family, for those that have a family. I want to make sure I don't run out of cash. It's a big one for entrepreneurs. And the last one is a big one, is I want to make sure I don't let people down, right? These are very common things that I hear from people when they're super stressed and they come to me for help. These are the things that their mind is usually focused on. And this is definitely not going to create that stress immunity mindset. We've got to go to the destination. So why is that so important? If our brain is focused on all of these obstacles, okay, what it does is it tells the brain that there is constant threat everywhere, okay? And when the brain perceives threat everywhere, it turns on the stress response. And so just that focus in itself, like literally just focusing on all these things all the time, or putting all of the energy and the resources. Remember, the stress response provides you with valuable resources, okay? That stress response is increasing energy. It actually increases your ability to focus. Like, it is an incredible asset. But if you take these resources and you direct them at, all right, I want to make sure I don't hit that. I want to make sure I don't hit that. I want to make sure I don't hit that. I want to make sure I don't hit that. Well, you're just reinforcing the danger. And this is literally what I refer to as the chronic stress cycle, because it never shuts off. You just get caught in this whirlwind of stress simply because of the way your mind is focused. Now, in my 5-day chronic stress immunity challenge that I offer, I go through the 5 components that can cultivate and facilitate the chronic stress cycle. Your mindset is one of the biggest ones here, and that's what I'm going to review in this video, the 3 mind shifts. But if you're interested in the other 4 components, make sure you look at the link in the description. You can sign up for my 5-day challenge. It's a live challenge, and we go through all 5 of them. All right, so if we want to stop getting our mind to stop looking at the things we're trying to avoid, we need to teach it how to focus on the destination. And so therefore we have to actually start to figure out, what do we want? Because if you've been focused on what you don't want for God knows how long, when I ask entrepreneurs, when I ask business execs, really when I ask anybody, what is it that you do want? It's actually not that easy to come up with those answers, right? And so one of the things you can do to help get to the destination, which is absolutely essential, how do I name the destination? One of the exercises that I suggest people do if they have trouble naming what they want, right? And now when you name what you want, you can't be general. I just want to be healthy, and I want to make sure that I have the freedom to do what I want. Like, that's not a specific target, okay? Your brain is not going to be able to lock in on an ambiguous target. You have to put in the exact coordinates. You got to be specific. Okay, so think about it. Like, these are specific things. I bet that there are specificity inside of the sickness. I don't want to get sick like this person I know, like my dad, like my uncle. I don't want to be like this person. And you have very specific details about that person, what you don't want, right? This is exactly the high resolution focus that we have on stuff we don't want. And then when I ask people what they do want, they're like, I just want to be happy. And what the heck does that mean? You got to be specific. You got to be specific. Now, if you haven't practiced naming what you want, one of the things that you can do is create an anti-vision, okay? And because we have such details on what we don't want, and this is what I call your anti-vision, we can take advantage of that, right? And what you do is you actually take out a piece of paper and you write down as specifically as possible what you don't want. And you're like, wait a minute, Matt, you just told me that's not what I want to do. I got it. Hang in there for a second. The reason why we want to write this anti-vision is because we want to work with what we got. If that's all you can think of right now, that's fine. Let's leverage that. Let's use that to create the vision. So once you name the anti-vision as specifically as possible, then you take out another piece of paper and you start to write your vision. The actual vision, the actual destination. And all you have to do is literally create and write the exact opposite thing that you wrote in your anti-vision. So if you wrote, I just don't want to burn out, I don't want to crash in the afternoon, I don't want to come home and be frustrated and angry with my kids because I have no more energy left. Okay, that's the anti-vision. Good job. Let's say we wrote that down. The vision is name how you want to feel in the afternoon, how you want to feel when you see your kids, how the energy you want to have when you're interacting with them, and even name the things that you would do with them with the energy that you have. Because the other thing that people get confused about is when I ask them to name where they want to go, they start telling me about strategies of how they think they're going to get there. So if I say, where do you want to go? I really need to meditate more. I really need to exercise more. I really need to make sure that I'm drinking more water. Okay, got it. Those are all actions that potentially will get you to a destination. But what's the destination? The destination might be, I want to have the energy when I come home from work to be able to go outside and play tag with my kids, to pick up my wife, give her a hug, help her make dinner for everybody. These are the kinds of things. Or maybe I want to come home from work and I want to have the energy to cook a healthy meal, right? So I'm not so tired and I order delivery dudes for the 8 straight days, right? And so it's so easy to get caught up in the perceived strategy or how I believe I need to get there. I need to meditate, I need to do this, I need to do that. No, that's not the what, that's the how, okay? The analogy I use is if I was a travel agent and I called you on the phone and I said, hey, where would you like to go on vacation? What's your destination that you want to hit? And you say, I want to go by car, by boat, then by plane, then by canoe, then by tricycle. Wait, but where do you want to go? I don't know. I need a taxi. So no, that's how you might get to the destination, but that's not the question. We got to get really good at being able to name the destination, the what, and start to pay attention to when you start to list off how you believe you're going to get there, okay? And this ties right into why it's so important to get good at naming the what. Because when you lock your brain on the destination, the target that you want to hit, what your brain does instead of focusing on all the problems, right? Instead of all the resources going to all the obstacles that we see, all the problems that we see here, right? And then being caught in that stress loop, if we have the destination lit up, that's where we want to go. What our brain starts to do is it starts to illuminate the pathway to get to the destination. This is the most powerful thing that your brain does, all right? And we need to take advantage of this, right? As you'll hear me say to many of my clients, when you start walking the path towards your destination, the path starts to reveal itself, okay? And that is why this first mindset shift is so critical. We've got to teach our brain to focus on where we're going so it can start to illuminate the pathway to get there, okay? This is no different than if you were learning how to ski. Your ski instructor, I promise you, would tell you, hey, make sure when you're going down the mountain, don't look at the trees. That's the best way not to hit the trees, is to stop staring at them, right? Because wherever we're focused, that's where we will go, all right? And so that's why naming the destination is the number one mindset shift that will take you out of the chronic stress loop. And one of the ways you can do it, if you're having trouble naming what you want, but you're really good at naming what you don't want, create your anti-vision first, and then literally flip it on its head and start getting super specific about the vision, the target, the destination that you're trying to hit. All right, let's talk about the second most powerful mindset shift that creates the stress immunity mindset. And so, as we said in the first one, we've got ourselves starting on this journey. We've named what we want, right? We've gotten clear on that vision, whether we leveraged our anti-vision or not, but we've got some clarity on the specific target. And we're starting to see the pathway unfold, right? You're not going to see the whole pathway, but you'll definitely start to see some of the first steps that will unfold, okay? And now here's what's really important. As you start going on this journey, one of the mistakes I see people make as they start walking this path is they start to ask along the path, am I there yet? Have I gotten to the destination there? Am I there? Am I there? Am I there? And so what they're doing here in this situation is we're constantly measuring how far we are from our target, right? So it's like, oh man, I'm still 22 miles away. God, I'm not there yet, right? I'm not there yet. There's still a gap between where I am and where I want to go. As soon as we focus on the gap, we focus on where we have not gotten yet. Okay, I always say it's like that 5-year-old in the back seat saying, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? We're not there yet." Like, that's very stressful. If I'm constantly focused on the gap of where I have not reached yet, okay, boom, that tells me the body's stressful. It's stressful because this is an open loop. The open loop, which is, I'm still not there. I haven't gotten there yet. And open loops create stress. It's a problem that we haven't solved yet. And so, meaning we're not there yet. That's a problem. That's stressful, okay? And so, instead of doing it that way, okay, we need to learn how to measure backwards. And so, we want to stop asking ourselves, are we there yet? Constantly. It's important to check in and see where you are relative to the goal. We're going to talk about in a second. But what you want to be doing more often, I would say 90% of the time, is you want to be measuring backwards. You want to focus on the progress that you've made. And I'll share a story where this became very evident for me on my journey. One of the things that I did when I was very young is I moved across the country to study with this gentleman to teach me human biomechanics. So one of the things I do, and I've done for 20 years, is help people with different injuries. I myself had about four orthopedic surgeries, 4 or 5 orthopedic surgeries. I turned down one of them before the age of 24, 25 years old, okay? And my body was falling apart. I was a 3-sport athlete. So I really wanted to understand the mechanics, body mechanics, understand, is there anything I can do to prevent my body from falling apart by the age of 25? And so I met a mentor of mine and moved to California to study with him. This guy was able to watch people's bodies, watch somebody move and pick apart the biomechanics and find out why your knee hurts, for example. And I remember being out there for about 6 months, and somebody came in and we were doing an evaluation on him, and my mentor was watching this guy walk, and he was basically just picking apart everything. He was like, yeah, so you see his hips not rotating properly and his foot's in the wrong position, and you see what that's doing to his shoulder blade, and he's just rattling off all these things he's seeing as he's doing this evaluation. And I remember sitting there feeling so defeated. I thought to myself, man, I am so far from being able to do that. I don't even think it's even possible that I'll ever get there, okay? And I shared that frustration with him. And he said to me, he goes, Matt, he goes, let me ask you a question. If someone came in here with back pain today, would you treat them the same today that you would have 6 months ago? And I go, oh my God, no. I would do this and that and this, and I would look at this and I would measure that, and as I'm saying all this thing, he just starts smiling at me, and I go, oh, yeah, man, I've learned so much in 6 months. I forgot to measure backwards. But here's the other thing that I realized in that moment. I realized how arrogant I was. How arrogant I was that within 6 months that I should be able to do and see what this gentleman has taken 20 years to cultivate within himself. Like I was like, man, you're like Matt, slow down, man. Like this guy has been studying this for 20 years and you think you're going to get to that level of expertise in 6 months? So it was a humbling thing for me. And that's what taught me how to measure backwards. And he even said that to me as he was smiling. He goes, Matt, remember to measure backwards. And I go, that lesson I'll never forget. That's a 22-year-old message, okay, that I'm sharing with you. And boy, does it work. And every time I forget this, boom, stress increases, okay? And so we got to measure backwards. Absolutely essential. That's the number 2 mindset shift, is measure backwards. Now, there's one more thing I want to share with you here that's important when it comes to measuring backwards. When you're naming your vision, okay, we talked about that in Mindset Shift 1. We got that target, the specificity. Now, what you got to make sure you're not doing, okay, not only do you not want to measure towards that destination point, but you also don't want to measure your ideals, okay? So your ideal scenario, like maybe my ideal is I want to know everything there is to know about human biomechanics and be able to just understand the body 100%. Like I want to know it all. Okay, that would be ideal, and that's something to orient to, right? It's like something in the distance that I can orient to, but you have to understand, you never want to set an ideal as your target, okay? I draw it this way because it's like chasing the horizon. If your goal is to get to the horizon and you're measuring where you are now with the horizon, guess what's going to happen? Yep, this stress loop is going to be turned on and it's never going to turn off, because all you're going to know is you're never quite there. Because if you've ever chased the horizon, you know that as soon as you start moving towards it, it's like you didn't make any progress. Because guess what, guys? You can't get to the horizon. It's always going to be there. But that's how you want to think of your ideals. It can be a guide. Okay, it's, man, I want to know as much as possible about the human body. Okay, that's the ideal I'm chasing. I know I'm never going to get there, but I want that to be something that orients me as I'm moving towards the specific vision. And as I'm on that pathway, I'm going to make sure I measure backwards so that I'm always putting my brain in the position of, man, we're making progress, which is much more motivating and inspiring than constantly feeling like I'm not there yet. The third and final mindset I want to share with you that creates stress immunity is to always position your setbacks and your failures for growth to move you forward as an opportunity to expand and learn. This is so important, because if we got those first 2 steps down, okay, we've named that destination, right? We're measuring backwards as we're walking along the path as it illuminates itself, right? The path starts to illuminate itself. And we're walking along that path, making sure to measure backwards, right? As we're moving towards that destination. What is going to happen along the way is we're going to come to obstacles. We're going to make a mistake here and there. We're going to go off the path. We're going to get distracted, right? These are all obstacles that get in our way, or we don't execute properly. It's a failure, et cetera, et cetera. And the more you can train your brain to take every single one of those failures, missteps, and position them as the essential step that I need to, the thing that teaches me the thing I need to learn. The more you can use these moments of failure or misstep or obstacles or things that happen that you just couldn't have predicted, right? Because a lot of times when the path is illuminated, we're not even sure what's on this path, right? But as the brain shows us this path, part of that path might be to overcome certain obstacles, to create a certain capacity within yourself so that you can get to your destination, right? And so it's the whole idea that as long as you're focused on the destination and you're following the path that's being illuminated to you, when you come to an obstacle or a challenge, assume that the obstacle and the challenge is there for you. It's not there because it's trying to get in your way, right? These things are happening for you, not to you. And this is a really important mindset because a lot of times to get where we're trying to go, we have to become somebody that we are not yet, right? We have to develop certain skills, certain capacity that are essential to being able to get to that destination. Because the person we are when we start the journey is not capable of necessarily getting there. They're capable of learning how to get there. And that's what you want to own. So you got to remember that, hey, as I walk on this path, I'm going to face things, obstacles, challenges, that are going to be necessary for me to cultivate the capacity necessary to get to the destination. And that's why every one of these setbacks, every one of these missteps, mistakes, failures, or things we are confronted with that we perceive as an obstacle, to borrow from Ryan Holiday, the obstacle is the way, okay? And you want to start to position it that way. It's not there because it's an impedance to get you getting to the destination. It's there as a catalyst to move you there. And so one of the things that I think about as we're moving along a pathway, right, and then we hit like a rut, right? Like we feel like we're losing momentum, we're getting off track. And the way I think about it is, let's say you don't realize it, but this is where we need to go. And this little dip right here that we perceive to be a setback is actually the very thing that we need to create the momentum, right? It's almost if I'm on a bike. If I go into this hole, but I leverage the momentum of going into that dip, what it does is I get this momentum to take a big leap, a big jump, right? Whether you're on a skateboard or a bike, you leverage this perceived dip or this, what we believe is a valley. It's no, man, we can pick up momentum here in a way that you just wouldn't be able to do if you didn't have that little jump, right? If you didn't have that momentum, because there's momentum here. This right here is gold, okay? This moment right here is gold because this is where you build capacity. This is where you build skill that you didn't have before. And that skill development, that capacity that you developed is like this turbo booster that kind of propels you forward faster. Now, if you look at this as a major setback and you go into kind of the self-pity phase, you don't leverage the momentum. And that's where you can get stuck down there. And it's a lot harder to get out of a hole when you're down there for a while. You can still do it, but man, if you look at this as, okay, this is happening, it seems like an obstacle, it must be something that's here for me so that I can build the capacity and the ability to propel me forward in a way that I can't even perceive right now, okay? So that's the third mindset, stress immunity mindset, is to look at obstacles as opportunities for growth. They're catalysts, okay? Think of them as like your superpower, a catalyst, all right? And so those three shifts, those three mindset shifts make up the stress immunity mindset. Making sure that you're able to identify where you want to go as specifically as possible. Making sure that when you identify where you want to go, that target, that aim, that it's not some ideal, that you're not chasing the horizon, that you're naming a specific target. That's number one. Number two, as you're moving towards that aim, as you're moving towards that specific goal, Be sure to measure backwards, whether that's on a daily basis, a weekly, a monthly, a quarterly. You should always ask yourself, what were the wins of the day? What were my wins of the month? What were my wins of the quarter? How far have I made it from this point to where I am now? This point in the past where I am now. Measure backwards. Number 2, key stress immunity mindset. And then the third, essential stress immunity mindset, is to look at all obstacles as opportunities of growth and look at them as catalysts. All right? If you start implementing these mindsets on a regular basis, I promise you, you will step into a completely different experience as you pursue not only your entrepreneurial or business goals, but also any goals or any visions of who you want to be with your family, your children, and your community. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this useful, be sure to check out in my description about my Stress Immunity Challenge, the 5-day challenge. It's a live event. And if you click the link in the description, you can get 20% off by getting on the wait list. We offer these challenges periodically, usually around every 4 to 6 weeks. So if you get on the wait list, not only will you be notified as soon as the next challenge begins, but you'll get 20% off the fee to join. These challenges are live, so make sure you jump on that list by clicking on the description. Thanks so much.